So sometimes carelessness, yes, sometimes carelessness put us in this position where as nurse practitioners, people don't really trust the kind of work that you're doing. Yes, everybody want to make money, but make money safe for your patient and for yourself. You work too hard for persons to be running you down and say that they're going to bring you to court. It don't look good. It don't look good. And this is only going to cause more problem for nurse practitioners that are coming out. So do I enjoy working as a nurse practitioner? Doing house calls? Yes. I find it very fulfilling. I've always enjoyed helping people, and that's how I ended up in the emergency room, because I always want to be on the front line. But when it comes on to the home health or house visits, it is something that I really, really enjoy. I am able to see my patients and advocate for them a little bit better. I was able to advocate for them in the emergency room, but you know, sometimes because you're a little nurse and whatever, you can't really make no decision with certain things. You can make the recommendations, but a lot of times the providers, you know, depending on their years of service and all, and depending on how cocky some of them are, then you really can't get certain things done for your patient on time, or they will not order. I enjoy what I'm doing now because I am able to go with my gut feeling sometimes. Yes, so even though we have providers there who is able to help us, you know, you don't want to be that annoying person. So it's always a learning process for me where I go ahead and research. I try to use up, like, you know, the up-to-date website or the app itself to get information to help with guiding me on certain testing or management of the patient. And depending on, you know, if, so for example, there is something that I do not understand, I will reach out to my boss or my medical doctor to say, hey, this is what is happening and I want your second opinion. And sometimes you always go with your gut feeling. Your gut feeling always correct. So for me, it is something that I enjoy right now, because yeah, I used to sit down and just be looking at the patients, and sometimes I feel like the patients are not being treated properly, and even though you probably say something, sometimes nothing really comes out of it. So now I know I'm not going to be able to make that big difference for the patient, but at least, you know, my little 1 cent or 2 cents can help out with trying to improve on the patient's health. So yeah, I do enjoy it a lot. I find it easier. Nobody wants to hear that word, but yes, I find it easier to do than being an emergency room nurse. With being a registered nurse or emergency room nurse, you know, there is so many things you have to do. No, I don't have to do all of those. I don't have to get my hands too dirty sometime, but there's a lot of responsibility because the scope is a little bit wider. So you have a lot of responsibility that you have to deal with on a daily basis, because sometimes you get requests for certain testing for patients, or requests for certain equipment or something that the patient needs in the home setting, like right around the clock. Or so for example, the patient sneezes, they want to talk to the nurse practitioner. Sometimes the patient needs a prescription, they want to talk to the nurse practitioner. So yes, your ears start ring a little bit more because everybody calling the nurse practitioner, because you're now a little bit more, you know, advanced to do certain things. I have no regrets being a nurse practitioner, regardless of the stories you hear every day. The only thing I regret sometimes is that, you know, sometimes we have persons out there who makes the nurse practitioners look like we don't have any sense. Like, I work so hard for this thing, and then you have persons coming out and making the profession seem as though, you know, nurses are not, or nurse practitioners are not qualified enough to do certain things. And yes, we never really go to school for that long years. We never go to school to be a medical doctor, and I don't practice as though I'm a medical doctor. I practice in the capacity of a nurse practitioner, so most of my thing is going to be preventative care, preventative management, and then I'll try to see how best, other things can actually work with it. But when you have persons coming out into the field and they do some things and you're wondering, is this person really doing that? Is this person really a nurse? Is this person really a nurse practitioner? Then I cannot understand why persons are having the stigma or the stereotype nurse practitioners the way they do, because we're not acting, we're not having enough experience before we jump into this work environment. And so some of the doctors look at you and say, oh Lord, because sometimes I have to question myself as well, because sometimes some simple things we tend to overlook them, or it's like we can't critically think about certain things and decide on the best management for the patient before we jump out and say, okay, then let me call the doctor and find out what this is. And if you're going to call the doctor about simple things every second, then after a while they're going to be wondering whether or not you're even well qualified to do the job that you're supposed to be doing. So I cannot understand what they're saying, what this thing is all about when people talk about, oh, they don't want to see a nurse practitioner, they want to see an MD. Well, I totally understand them, but at the same time, I think I'm qualified enough to see patients. I have enough experience where I can make that decision to say, okay, then this is what is happening. This is when you need to go and see, a specialist, or this is why I'm referring you to a specialist, because I think you would benefit from a specialist at this time versus a nurse practitioner just coming in to see you and just doing the bare minimum of ordering certain things. And so a lot of times people get offended by it. For me, I always try to have them kind of hear me out a little, and for the majority of the time, sometimes the patients tend to continue wanting the nurse practitioner to see them, which is nice. So depending on how you go about and try to do certain things, because if you're going to be the nurse practitioner that shows up and just be like, hey, I'm here and everything looks good in your labs, the patient don't know what everything looks good in your lab mean. You have to go down and tell them, say, ma'am, your values are looking normal. There's no problem with your kidneys. There's no problem with your liver. But when you go and say everything looks good, they don't know what they're talking about. So you have to kind of break it down a little bit to them and try to explain to them, all the different tests in layman terms, what you did for them, so they can have a better understanding and they can feel as though they're a part of the management of their own health. So I cannot understand, because sometimes I see some documentation and I'm like, this doesn't even make any sense, because this copy and paste thing that some of us nurses are doing, copy the notes from another nurse's note and then you only edit it, and you don't even edit it properly, because you can imagine doing an edit and you see a patient today and the patient is with a practice for 2 years, and every single month somebody sees the patient, they copy the same note and they don't even look over and say, all right, let me edit the notes properly, read through it before I finalize what is there. It's the same initial visit you're reading. So the patient have a scratch on the head 4 years ago. The scratch on the head is still there today, and they're getting wound care management just the same, because nobody has the time to go through and look at the patient, look at the notes itself to make sure that everything is looking good. So sometimes carelessness, yes. Sometimes carelessness put us in this position where, as nurse practitioners, people don't really trust the kind of work that you're doing. And so I cannot understand what the doctors are saying, and they are pissed about it, because yes, you want to come and ask for a certain amount of money, but you're not producing the work you're supposed to be producing. You see, when I see my patient, I know that I'm producing a certain kind of work, and if I produce quality work, I'm going to ask for quality money. You understand? So until they tell me no, I'm going to ask every 3 months for a raise. And it's up to them whether or not they want to do it. So far I've asked for 2 raises in less than 6 months. And my boss gave it to me because she said anything for you. So guess what? I'm just going to continue producing the quality work that I do. So don't let it be a case where you're sitting down and just copy and pasting people's notes and doing the edits on it, and you're not reading through the notes itself, looking at it to make sure that, it makes sense. You're not looking through to say, okay, then the orders you're putting in, it makes sense. You're not looking through on the labs to say, okay, then let me try to get follow up on these labs, or let me try and get, you know, a repeat on these labs for this patient, because we're in so much of a rush to make money. Yes, everybody want to make money, but make money safe for your patient and for yourself. You work too hard for persons to be running you down and say that they're gonna bring you to court. It don't look good. It don't look good. And this is only gonna cause more problem for nurse practitioners that are coming out, you know, in the working field and say that they're gonna bring you to court. It don't look good. It don't look good. And this is only gonna cause more problem for nurse practitioners that are coming out, you know, in the working field, wanting to make an impact, and are gonna be doing really good work for their patients and for their company or the practice that they're working with. But because of one or two bad apple, it spoiled the entire basket of apple for everybody else that is there. So I just want to say, you know, just make sure we're doing the right thing. Have people not use that little stigma and say, oh, the nurse practitioners, all the nurse practitioners are bad. Because I know that I don't fall in that category, because I know that I am doing the work that I'm supposed to be doing. But if you can't feel comfortable going to your boss and say, hey, you need $80, it means say you're not doing the work you're supposed to be doing. Simple. So that's just my little thing, you know. So until then, thank you so much for tuning in, and I do hope that you will remember to like, share, and subscribe, comment, and turn that notification bell on. Until then, bye.